Every rank of casino dealer. Level 1, the training. You're 21. You're in a dealing school in Las Vegas. It costs $500 for 6 weeks. You found it through a Craigslist ad. Good money, flexible hours, no experience necessary. You needed a job. You've never been inside a casino except as a customer. You don't gamble. You just need to pay rent. The school is in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation office. The instructor is named Frank, 22 years dealing. The specific energy of someone who has seen everything twice and finds nothing surprising anymore. Frank teaches you the mechanics, how to shuffle, how to pitch cards, how to handle chips. He teaches you the math. The house edge on blackjack is roughly 0.5% when played correctly. You will deal thousands of hands. Over time, the math wins. Always. He teaches you something that isn't in any curriculum. How to be present without being there. How to maintain a professional, pleasant expression for 8 hours regardless of what's happening at your table. You practice the shuffle. You practice the pitch. You practice the expression. 6 weeks later, you audition in front of a pit boss for 20 minutes. You get the job. You're 21 years old, and you're about to spend the next several years standing on the other side of a felt table, watching people give you their money. Level 2, the floor. Your first week on the floor is disorienting in a way training didn't prepare you for. The casino is loud in a specific way, constant. By the end of your first month, the silence of your apartment feels strange. Your table is $10 minimum blackjack. You deal, you pay winners, you collect from losers, you shuffle, you repeat. The money stops feeling like money faster than you expected. Chips are colored plastic. A $100 chip pulled from a losing hand doesn't register the way a $100 bill would. The casino designed it this way. You're operating inside the design. What you notice in your first weeks is the range of how people lose. Some lose steadily, unbothered. Others lose in escalating stages. The first loss produces recalibration. The second produces a change in bet size. The third produces something that crosses the face briefly before it gets managed. You learn to read that crossing. It happens at different thresholds for different people. Your job when you see it is to keep dealing. Level 3, the regular. You're 22. You've been dealing for 8 months and you know the regulars. There's a man who comes every Tuesday and Thursday, mid-50s. He works in insurance, he's mentioned. He sits at your table for 3 to 4 hours each visit. He always starts with $300 in chips. He almost always leaves with less. Sometimes significantly less. You've watched him lose $1,200 in a single Thursday evening. He's pleasant. He talks about sports, about his kids, about a restaurant he tried. He tips moderately when he wins. He never shows visible distress when he loses. He just pulls out his wallet and buys more chips and continues. You've done the rough math. He comes twice a week. He loses on average maybe $400 per visit. That's $800 a week. Over $40,000 a year. You make $28,000 a year before tips. You don't say anything about this math to him. Your job is to deal cards. His choices about how he spends his money are not your responsibility. There's a woman who comes on weekends, late 30s. She plays slots mostly, but sometimes sits at your table. She told you once that she comes to decompress from her week. She said it like going to a spa. Something you do for yourself that costs money and makes you feel better. You've seen her cry once, quietly, at the end of a bad session. She composed herself quickly and left without looking at you. You kept dealing. A new player sat down. There's a man who comes every day. Every day. You've never seen him not in the casino. He plays for hours. He's not a high roller. He plays $25 hands. He loses steadily and methodically, and he comes back the next day and does it again. You've started to understand the difference between people who gamble and people for whom gambling is the thing. The Tuesday/Thursday man gambles. He might stop if something changed. The everyday man cannot stop. He is here because here is the only place he knows how to be. You deal his hands. You collect his chips. You smile when appropriate. You go home. Level 4, the pit. You're 23. You've been moved to a higher limit table, $25 minimum, sometimes $50. The players are different. Not necessarily richer, though some are. More serious, more experienced. They know the game better and they play it with less of the tourist energy and more of the specific concentration of people for whom this is something they think about outside the casino. You've gotten faster and better. Your shuffle is clean. Your pitch is consistent. You can run a full table of 7 players in a rhythm that looks effortless. The pit boss who watches your section has started treating you like someone who knows what they're doing, which is a different kind of attention from the early months. A man sits at your table, and you recognize the pattern within 3 hands. Card counter. Not obvious, he's good. But the bet spreading has a quality that follows the count. Small bets when the shoe is rich for the house, larger bets when it shifts. The correlation isn't perfect because he's disguising it, but it's there. You're required to report this to the pit boss. You do. The pit boss watches for a few minutes, confirms your read, and the man is asked politely to leave. He goes without argument. He's been through this before. You feel nothing particular about this. You reported what you observed. The casino has rules. You enforce the casino's rules. That's the job. What you feel something about is later that same night. A woman in her late 40s sits down. She buys $500 in chips. Over the next 2 hours, you watch her go through it. Then she pulls out her wallet and buys another $300. That goes. She pulls out her phone. You assume to call someone or check messages, but she's transferring money through a banking app, and you watch the number on her screen before she angles it away. $800 coming from somewhere. She converts it to chips. She loses all of it. She leaves. You shuffle for the next hand. The card counter was protecting himself from the casino. The casino was protecting itself from him. Nobody protected her from herself. That's not how it works. That's not what anyone's job is here. Level 5. The stories. You're 24. You've been dealing for 3 years, and you've accumulated a collection of things you've seen that you don't talk about outside work. The man who proposed to his girlfriend at your table after a big win. She said yes. 6 weeks later, he was back alone, playing in a way that said the relationship didn't survive the next losing session. The woman who won $8,000 on a Tuesday night, tipped you $200, came back Friday and lost $12,000. You saw her face when the $12,000 was gone. You kept dealing. The father and son who sat at your table together. The son was maybe 19. The father was teaching him, explaining strategy, laughing when the son made the right call. They were there for 4 hours. The father lost maybe $600. The son lost $80. They left together still laughing. That one you think about as a good memory, and then you wonder about the son and whether he'll be back and what brought him back and at what point. The man who came in at 11 p.m. with a stack of cash that you later heard was his business's payroll. He lost it. He sat at the table after it was gone for a long time without speaking. The floor manager eventually came and spoke to him quietly. You kept dealing to the other players. You don't talk about these people to anyone, not because you were told not to, because there's nothing to say that resolves anything. You were there. You dealt the cards. They made their choices. The chips moved. You go home. You sleep. You come back tomorrow. Level 6. The grind. You're 25. The job has changed you in ways that took time to see. You notice it at a dinner with friends. Someone tells a story about losing money on something, a bad investment, a car repair that cost more than expected. The group responds with sympathy and mild outrage on the person's behalf. You respond with nothing in particular, not coldly, just neutrally. The way you respond at work when someone loses. Your friends notice the neutrality. Someone says you seem detached. You say you're tired, which is true, but the detachment predates the tiredness. You've been trained by 3 years of work to maintain professional distance from other people's financial pain. The training works. It works at work, and it works, somewhat, outside work. The dial that turns down your emotional response to watching people lose money has been turned down so many times that it takes more to turn it back up. You're not without empathy. You still feel things. But the specific category of watching someone in financial distress has become something your nervous system processes differently than it used to. Not as an emergency, not as something requiring response, as information. You think about this occasionally, whether it's a problem. You decide it's an occupational adaptation the way any job changes how you process relevant stimuli. Doctors become less distressed by blood. Lawyers become less distressed by conflict. You became less distressed by financial loss. You keep dealing. Your tips are good. Your evaluations are good. You're reliable and professional, and your tables run smoothly. You're good at the job in every measurable way. Level 7, the question. You're 26. A player asks you a question you've been asked before, but tonight lands differently. The player is a man in his 30s. He's been at your table for 2 hours. He's down about $600. Not catastrophic, not unusual. He's playing steadily, not chasing, just having a bad night statistically. He looks at you between hands. He says, "Do you ever feel bad about this?" You give the standard answer, the answer you've given variations of before. You say, "It's a legal entertainment business." You say people choose to be here. You say it's like any other form of entertainment that costs money. He nods. He's not challenging you. He's genuinely asking. He says, "But you see it every day. You see when it goes wrong for people. Doesn't that get to you?" You say you maintain professional boundaries. You say you're here to deal cards, and the business of what brings people here and what they do with their money isn't something you have a role in. He nods again. He places his next bet. You deal. But the question stays with you in a way the question hasn't stayed before. Maybe because you've been doing this for 5 years, and the accumulated weight of what you've seen is heavier than it was at 2 years or 3. Maybe because the man asked it simply and without judgment, and gave you space to actually consider it rather than deflect it. You think about the everyday man who you haven't seen in a month. You don't know why he stopped coming. There are several possibilities, and only one of them is good. You think about the woman who cried quietly at the end of a bad session and composed herself quickly and left without looking at you. You deal the next hand. You collect the losing chips. You pay the winner. You go home, and you sit with the question for longer than you usually sit with things from work. Level 8, the toll. You're 27. You've started applying to other jobs. Not dramatically. More as the quiet accumulation of 5 years of something you've decided you want less of. The detachment you called occupational adaptation has started to feel like erosion. You can still feel things, but the category of human distress you process daily has expanded its territory. You find yourself maintaining professional distance in personal contexts where it isn't appropriate. A friend going through something hard, and you listening with the attentiveness of someone present but not affected. Your mother mentioning something difficult, and you responding with the measured neutrality of someone trained not to react. You think about the everyday man and where he is. About the Tuesday/Thursday man, and whether his wife knows what Tuesday and Thursday cost. You deal the cards. You collect the chips. You go home. You apply for jobs. You think about what skill you actually have after 5 years of this. Managing pressure. Reading rooms. Performing consistently for 8 hours without breaking. These are real skills. They translate. You keep dealing while you look. You're good at it. That's both the thing you're proud of and the thing you want to leave behind. Level 9, the last shift. You're 28. You work your last shift on a Tuesday. You didn't announce it. You gave 2 weeks' notice to the pit boss and worked the 2 weeks, and tonight is the last one. Nobody on the floor knows except management. The players at your table don't know. The regulars who are there don't know. The Tuesday/Thursday insurance man is there. He sits at your table for 3 hours. He loses $400. He tips you $20 when he leaves the way he always does, win or lose. A flat $20 regardless of the session. He says, "See you Thursday." You say, "Take care. You won't be there Thursday." You think about whether to say something. What would you say? Something about the math? About what Tuesday and Thursday have cost over the years you've watched? Something about the wife you've imagined but never met? Something that would be honest and possibly useful. You say, "Take care." He leaves. You deal the next hand. At the end of the shift, you cash out your tips. You shake hands with a couple of colleagues. You walk out into the parking lot at 3 a.m. The Las Vegas air is warm and still. You sit in your car for a while. You think about the first shift, the disorienting noise, the chips that stopped feeling like money, the range of ways people lose. You think about the question the player asked 2 years ago. Do you ever feel bad about this? The answer you gave and the answer you didn't give. You start the car. You drive home. Level 10, the after. You're 33. You manage a hotel. Regular hotel, no casino, no chips, no one losing their rent money at your table. The skills transfer. Reading rooms, managing pressure, maintaining composure for long hours. You're good at it. You think about the casino sometimes, not with regret, with something that doesn't have a clean name. The distance the job required protected you, but it had a radius. The things you learned not to feel at work didn't only stop being felt at work. You don't know what happened to the everyday man, or the Tuesday/Thursday man, or the woman who cried quietly and left without looking at you. You hope some of them are okay. You know statistically that some of them aren't. That's the part that doesn't stay at work. You're glad you left. You wish you'd left sooner. Both things are true. And now, you want to say to everyone watching, the casino employs thousands of people whose job is to be present while you lose. They are trained to be professional and pleasant and neutral. That neutrality is not indifference. It's what the job costs them. If this story stayed with you, like and